I'm John Heilemann, and this is the Hell and High Water Podcast.
My guest today, the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Matthews.
I feel like I went to hell and back to protect them and the people in this room. But too many are now telling me that hell doesn't exist, or that hell actually wasn't that bad. The indifference shown to my colleagues is disgraceful. Being an officer, you know your life is at risk whenever you walk out the door, even if you don't expect otherwise law-abiding citizens to take up arms against you. But nothing, truly nothing, has prepared me to address those elected members of our government who continue to deny the events of that day, and in doing so, betray their oath of office.
So like I said, Chris, that's Michael Fanone, DC Metropolitan Officer, guy who, was tased. He was afraid that people are going to try to kill him with his own gun. We've heard his story, incredibly traumatic. Every time you hear it again, it still is horrifying. Any sentient human listening to him and his fellow officers who went through what they went through on January 6th is horrified and I would say grateful and humbled in the presence of it. And then instead of that, other reactions have come forward. Here's a guy after Michael Fanone said that, a guy leaves a voicemail for Michael Fanone shortly thereafter. I want to hear this, and then we're really going to talk about it. This is a voicemail Michael Fanone got shortly after his Capitol Hill testimony a couple weeks ago. Let's listen to that.
First saved message.
Yeah, this is from Michael Fanone, Metropolitan Police Officer. You're on trial right now, lying, and you want an Emmy, an Oscar? What are you trying to go for here? You're so full of shit, you little faggot fucker. You're a little pussy, man. I can slap you up the side of your head with a backhand and knock you out, you little faggot. You're a punk faggot. You're a lying fuck.
How could anybody, Chris, explain that to me, man? How can anybody listen to these police officers, these Capitol police officers who put their lives on the line for the sake of the building, what it symbolizes for our democracy, for the people inside of it, in the middle of a riot and insurrection? These people have been traumatized. Now, 4 of them have killed themselves on the basis of what they went through. How do you, I know the answer is, racist, okay, whatever. It's hard, but explain how this can be that these people are not just uniform heroes.
I was a cop 50 years ago when there was a similar division in the country over the Vietnam War. It was the long hairs versus the hard hats. And the cops, a lot of them were with the pro-war crowd mentally or culturally. They're West Virginia guys. They were double dippers. They had been in the MP. They had been military police. They're going back for a second income of $8,000 a year for their families. I had one guy, Leroy Taylor from West Virginia. He was always talking about the smoke he was going to deliver. He's going to use his flamethrower on somebody. He was a real military guy and maybe a little deranged. But you know what he said to me one time? He called me aside. I was the college kid. I was one of the patronage cops. And he goes, "You know why the little man loves this country?" And I said, "Why?" He said, "It's because it's all he's got." I can only project and say, although it's 50 years later, that when they saw in the eyes of those people out there, some crazy lunatics with horns on, but a lot of them looked familiar to them. That they look like the people they go home to at night, they're in church with, and they go, my people are coming at me. I'm a working class guy, and my people are coming at me, working class white people. They have hatred in their eyes. They're trying to poke things into my eyes. They're trying to kill me. They're poking a flag into me. They're really trying to hurt me personally. And they're calling me a sellout and saying, I'm just doing this for money. I think the torture, the moral and mental torture of these people, I don't know anything about psychiatry, but they weren't facing people from, they weren't facing the Empire of Japan or the Nazis. They weren't facing communists. They were facing people that they may have voted like.
Yeah.
Saying they want to beat them up and hurt them and make them, hurt them permanently. And why do they want to do this to me? And they're looking me in the eye saying, I want, I don't know what that would be like for 3 or 4 hours.
Right.
And they weren't ready for this. And right. Trump did this. Yeah. Trump did it. And if he had any conscience at all, he'd be miserable right now. That testimony from that body camera was the strongest thing I've ever heard in politics.
Right.
Because it was indisputable. It wasn't for prime time. It was what's recorded on a cop's body camera. And his voice of agony, of being tortured, was not, you wouldn't say that's impressive for him. I felt sorry for the guy. I didn't, but I also, and empathized with him, I was thinking, my God, he's doing this. He's taking this stuff.
Yeah.
And he's doing it for hours. They were pulling people out of line who just couldn't do it anymore. I mean, I wish we had seen those cameras the first day. All we saw was the guy moving the barrier, and they tried to make like the cops were in cahoots.
Right.
That was bad reporting, but it's all we had. People had at the time. But then we saw it from the defenders of the Capitol's point of view. And what did they think those guys were going to do when they got in there? Graffiti the place? I mean, I don't think anybody's thought this through. And the reason we don't know is cops saved these people.
Yes, right.
The Metropolitan Police came in to help.
Well, and you know, I think
there in the Hill. I worked in that Hill for 15 years. I was a cop. I used to check those doors at night. I'd walk around and protect the crypt. I remember one night sitting in the rotunda, just trying to imagine Jack Kennedy's coffin being there, all alone. I've been around that building all the time. I always took people to the British stairs to show them where the bullet holes were from 1812, where the British fought their way in. It is a cathedral of democracy. It's where people have been becoming elected officials since the 1790s. And because the people elected them. They're not them. They're the elected people's representatives. It's our cathedral of democracy. And these people came in there to do what? And they only wanted to know what they're doing that day was Donald Trump.
So until now, if I asked you this question until post January 6th, I know what the answer would have been to this question. You know, it would have been ludicrous. Is America going to stay a democratic republic, or is it going to become an autocracy? Is that what's at stake now, or is that hyperbolic?
Well, think of it this way. My answer is that the slogan or the motto over the National Archives is the past is prologue. So I don't think we're in immediate danger of losing our form of government, but what's this we're going through now? What is this a prologue to? If you look to the future and you say, well, it began with this Michael Flynn, the former general, saying we should have a military coup like in Myanmar. It began when a huge chunk of the Republican Party said the election was stolen. It began with a president who encouraged a mob attack on the Capitol. Well, that would look like the prologue to some very bad stuff. And I think that's where we're at right now. We're in the prologue part, and I worry.
Chris Matthews, this book, This Country, My Life in Politics and History. And like I said, man, it's great to see you again. Take care, man.
Thank you, Mike. I'll
talk to you soon. Okay, bye.
Thank you for watching. You can watch the full episode of Hell and High Water on The Recount, streaming daily, or listen to it wherever you get your podcasts.